Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Stacy Sloan with Keller Williams Elite Realty, proudly serving the Durham and Triangle area for 25 years. Call Stacy at 919-972-1180. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Rachel Z with Rachel Z Real Estate Team Realty. From the Triangle to the Triad, call Rachel Z at 919-323-6068. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Orange Hammer Podcast. Today, Marcia Coates in the house. Marcia, what's the Russian pronunciation? I'm not going to try. So what's your Russian name?
Maria Igorevna.
Okay, I could have probably gotten the Maria part. Name 2 and 3, though, I think you would have won, or I would have lost. Okay, so we have an incredibly filled episode today with 3 kind of related topics, and 2 related and 1 out of left field, but I think it's fun and we're going to do it anyway. So today we're going to talk about life in a cult, which you have firsthand knowledge of, and we will be producing the HBO documentary next year. No, I'm just kidding. There's no documentary, but I'm still fascinated. And then topic 2 is homeownership under the umbrella realm of relationships / unfortunately, in your case, getting a divorce and the ramifications of that, both physically, the home, financially, this, that, and the third. And then a little bit more exciting and more modern, which is also congratulations to you, is the potential of you buying a new townhome. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So we can relate topics 2 and 3 to my podcast, but let's dive in with topic 1, which is out of left field. So you are the first and only person I've ever met who openly and willingly is like, I was just in a cult for a long time. So what part of the world? Let's start.
Utah.
Why is nobody surprised? Utah. Okay. Any Mormon relationship there?
No.
Okay. Because I know there's a lot of Mormons in Utah.
Yeah,
that's that's a big common thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever been to Utah personally.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Is it beautiful other than when you're not in a cult?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a place to go visit geography-wise, you'd recommend, it's a cool spot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So it's world known. I mean, they had the Olympics there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Why did I not remember that? But that was
2000
2002. Thank you. Okay, because I would have not remembered. And those were the
Winter.
Those were what I was going to say. Those would have been Winter Olympics. Yeah, I mean, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it is pretty common that's like some world renowned skiing.
Very much so.
And those mountains are, it's like right up there with Colorado, like, and then like the Alps, it's like if we're talking like greatest skiing in the world.
Well, even southern Utah has a lot of national parks.
Okay.
So like the Grand Canyon, well, that's in Arizona.
Yeah.
Really close to the border. But the Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon, you got Moab. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just filled with beautiful nature.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how they tricked you.
That's how they get you.
Okay. So I actually don't even know if you're allowed. Are you allowed to say the name of the cult? Has it been like disbanded?
Mormons. Everyone knows that.
It's the Mormons.
It's the Mormons.
It's the Mormons. Okay. So I love the Book of Mormon. That play is hysterical.
Oh my
it's
goodness.
Arguably the funniest thing on the planet. But have you seen that?
Hasadiga Ibawai.
Okay, I'll take that as a big yes.
Yeah, that's from the.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. So is that? I mean, how? I can't even believe we're having this conversation. It's like hard to even not laugh. How true is the craziness of the Book of Mormon to reality?
There are some very, very true. And even when I was watching the Broadway, it is hilarious, but there were some triggers.
I was just going to ask, like, did that trigger you specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the most part, hilarious.
Give me in your opinion, percentage of that play that is accurate. Like, is it 80%?
I'd say, yeah, higher percent for sure.
Okay,
like,
awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they, for those who don't know, Alto are the magical geniuses behind South Park and Avenue Q. And they are, I mean, they attack everybody. There is nobody they don't let go. If you are a longtime South Park fan, left side, right side, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what news outlet you're for. They have made fun of it. And everybody in between, from Fox News to Jersey Shore and the Food Network. I mean, you name it, they leave no stone unturned, which is why they honestly can get away with that, and it being a cartoon.
Yes.
The fact that it's a cartoon and the fact that they truly don't lean one direction or another. Or maybe Matt and Trey do as humans, but South Park doesn't. They just make fun of everybody. Doesn't matter. Yep. Lefty liberal, full-on Republican, they don't care. It's hysterical. The latest episode I saw where they're making fun of the new Disney executive, where it's just like they go to the Disney executive with like an old Disney movie, and her solution to everything is make her black, make her gay. Make them black, make them gay. Make them black, make them gay. Like, just redo it, make them black, make them gay. Make them black, make them gay. And it's like, okay, but that is basically what Disney's doing. And it's like, damn, South Park, you really just go after it with no holds barred. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you were forced to become a Mormon?
So I was adopted from Russia when I was 8.
Okay.
To a Utah Mormon family. And pretty much right away, they started having me see the missionaries, so the Mormon missionaries. I did not even know the language at this point, and yet they still had me talk to the missionaries, do the lessons, and get baptized. I had no clue. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Okay. I had no fucking clue what the hell was going on. It was just something that you had to do in order to get baptized and become a member. So
you're 8 and you don't even speak English, and they're just like pushing you through these motions, and you're just like,
yeah.
We would have no idea. I mean, from years 1 through 7, are you in an orphanage in Russia?
So from when I was born until I was 8, I was in 3 different orphanages, and Russians are known for, like, we love tea, and we love to drink tea, especially black tea. So even on the airplane on my way to America, the stewardess was coming down the line to pass out the drinks, and there was some tea, and I was reaching for it, and here I am. I'm 8 years old. I am completely being traumatized here because I had no idea I was being adopted. Even I had no choice or consensus, and I'm just reaching for that last piece of home, that tea, and even right then and there, they kept taking my hands away, saying, "Niet," that's no in Russian. No, no, like we don't drink tea because Mormons don't drink tea or coffee.
So your new Mormon parents were on the plane with you from Russia to Utah,
Yes.
and they were literally just like, "No, don't drink the tea.
Yes.
That's not like
Yes.
that's not part of our culture or whatever."
Exactly.
Right. Which is a bonkers thing. Like, who cares? It's tea.
It's
like,
tea.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. Like, what's wrong with tea? Yeah. It's not like you were reaching for like cocaine,
Right? Yeah. Although that would be nice.
I mean, I guess I've never tried cocaine, but I do enjoy some tea now and then. I'm a big dirty chai fan. Which is, chai and a little espresso. That'll get your engine rolling. So, oh man, the whirlwind of questions. I don't even know where to go from here. Okay, so 8 years old, put on a plane. Well, not put on a plane. You're with your adoptive parents, right? There has to be. I mean, like one would hope. Like, do you think it was always like, how do we amass members, or were your parents at one point in the very beginning trying to do something good, do you think, by adopting somebody?
They were trying to rescue me. They heard of my situation. So I was born with a double cleft lip and palate, which is why I was placed in an orphanage. My parents abandoned me at birth. And I had a hard time eating, drinking, speaking, and so I was not going to thrive in Russia and even thrive for much longer as an 8-year-old. And so they heard about my situation, and so when they did, they flew out and then they got me to rescue me. And the sad thing about it is, yes, they had good intentions because they were trying to help my situation out. The bad thing was they completely were in the mindset of, okay, let's get her into our familiarity, into everything that we know, so into this Mormon world, and let her forget everything about her past and about who she really is.
So in their defense, just thinking about all the sides of the coin, do you think there was a tremendous amount of, culture that you had only as an 8-year-old that like you wish you hadn't had removed? Because like I'm trying to think like a lot of memories between like birth and 8, not coming up with like a huge amount of memories, and obviously that's completely not comparable to like being pulled from an entire country with another language and new people. But like, is there, other than the tea, obviously, but I'm kind of surprised you were drinking a lot of caffeinated tea at 8 years old, but that's a whole nother conversation. Russia does it differently. So is there like...
so I would say they would tell me, because I had a grandma over there, and I had a father. He was an alcoholic and a drunk all the time, but nonetheless...
Oh, so you were put up for abandoned, but you still knew your family?
Right.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that.
It was an interesting situation.
So you knew your grandma and you knew your father. You said he was alcoholic. What about your mom?
I knew nothing about her. They were divorced shortly after they gave me up at birth.
Wow. Okay.
So,
that's a very interesting twist of events, because most of the time, who am I? I'm not some expert on adoption. Let's be real clear. But like, at least when you are told about the world of adoption, or you see it in a movie or a TV show or something like that, usually they don't know their parents. And in fact, a lot of times in the movie, it's a hunt to try to find the birth parent when, the young adopted kid finds out they were adopted at like 17 and they're all full of teenage hormones and they're like, "You're not my real mom. I'm going to go find my real mom." And then their real mom is like gone or dead or not capable of being a mother, hence why
Yeah.
they were adopted. But
Yeah.
now we're rephrasing Hallmark movies, so it's not real life.
Right.
So, but that's just crazy that like you could literally go talk to your dad and he's just an alcoholic but doesn't want to be your dad.
Right.
So you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to my home at the orphanage. Like
Right.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's an insane event.
Right. My grandma worked at a kitchen in a different orphanage, and she was too poor to take care of me, but I did get permission from the orphanage once in a while to come stay with her overnight at her apartment, which is where my dad was. And that is my only interaction with him, which was nothing, because he would just pretend I wasn't even there. So, but
what about after you go to America? Do you keep in contact?
So that's the thing. My grandma was trying to fight because as soon as she heard that I was going to get adopted, she tried to fight for me, but she did not have enough money to pay for good lawyers. And so when they took me, for me, it was like getting kidnapped legally. I mean, they took me away, ripped me from everything I knew because I had no knowledge, no consensus, no heads up. It's like someone coming from India right now. Here you are, 8, and they're saying, "Hey, we're your parents. Come," and you have no choice, and you get put in a taxi, and off you go to the airport.
Is there any part of you? Maybe it's hard to remember. It's very traumatic. Also, is there any part of you that was like, "Oh, I'm excited to potentially have a better life"?
Oh, hell no. I had no idea what was going on because I had my friends. I had my home. Even though it was the orphanage and a lot of trauma happened to me there, it was still the only home I knew.
Right. At 8, you don't have a perspective of it being not great because you don't have a better perspective to compare it to. So you and the fellow orphans are all in this bubble together and you're making the best that you can. And it's just the life that you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had my grandma, and she treated me the best she could and spoiled me with anything she had. She was just one of the most beautiful souls out there in the world. So this adoptive family would keep telling me, "She's not your grandma anymore. She's not your family anymore. We're all you have. You're not Russian anymore. You're American." So they tried to really force me to forget. I mean, I learned English so quickly because anything Russian was so negative to them that at least that's what my 8-year-old Marcia, that was my nickname, Marcia.
They're trying to just stamp that out as quickly and as aggressively as possible. Yeah.
And so I learned English very quickly, but I forgot Russian also very quickly. And I just became who they wanted me to be.
Did you pick Russian back up? Because you sound like you still have the Russian accent, or is that more? Do you think from the surgeries?
Oh no, not from surgery. It's just to me, it's just me speaking proper English.
Okay, gotcha.
So I cannot tell. To me, all I am doing is just speaking English. But
it could be you could see it from a lot of perspectives. Like I've gotten to know you a tiny little bit, so knowing now that you come from a Russian world and were adopted, like not as an infant but as somebody who could speak, I could definitely, like if you told me like, oh yeah, this is the remnants of my Russian accent, I'd be like, okay, duh, like that makes sense. But then on the other side, if you were like, no, this is not like Russian's gone, this is just how I speak, I'd be like, okay, cool. So that's just how you speak when you are a Utah Mormon. Personally, I don't know a lot of Mormons from Utah. Like, actually, my regular Tuesday night poker game is only with the Mormons because they do a lot of gambling.
Oh yeah, they love it.
So I mean, you take away, again, to reference the Book of Mormon, I mean, like you take that away. I don't know anything about Mormons other than like, I guess they're a branch of Christianity. Like they still have the cross. I know that much. That's it. That's pretty much where my knowledge stops.
So even the cross is not focused on because Mormons believe that Christ resurrected. So yes, they believe that he died on the cross, and so they acknowledge the cross as an important event. But they really focus on what happened after the cross, which was the resurrection. So 3 days after his body was resurrected, and now he lives on, and he'll come back again.
Was there a point where you're so immersed in this, maybe at age 11 or whatever, where you start to believe this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, from the moment you're a baby, they start engraving songs, beliefs, everything to try to scare the shit out of you to not go the opposite. And so
it's all fear, though.
It's all fear.
There's no just love what we're doing.
Exactly.
It's all fear. Because I feel like a lot of other religions, I'm very just anti-religion as a concept. Like I was raised a Jew, and I don't have like negative connotations towards Jewish people or the Jewish faith. It taught me a lot of great morals that I'm happy that I have. And I got bar mitzvahed at 13 to appease mostly my parents and grandparents. But this is a very different level. It was very much like, okay, we're going to temple, but it's an hour on Sunday. It's not, the intensity that you had. And it was very much, there is no fear. It's very much like, okay, so this is our, the rabbi would get up and be like, this is our interpretation of the Bible or the Torah, which is the same freaking book. and it's hilarious. We argue about that. It's not the same book. It's the same book.
It's the same book.
Like it really is. Old Testament, New Testament.
Yeah.
It's the Torah.
Yeah.
Anyway. And it's just like, at least there's also levels of Judaism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the really strict dudes with the curls, I don't want any part, the Hasidic dudes, I don't want any part of that. Like you guys have sex through like a hole in a sheet. Like it's super weird. We were the lower end, which I'm now not even remembering the terminology, but there were 3 tiers and we were the lowest, like least religious people. Like I ate pork. We're not supposed to eat pork. I ate pork and meat, or pork and cheese, like a ham and cheese sandwich. Like that's like against hardcore Jew values.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember, okay, this is the best story I got. I remember one time at Hebrew school. Yes, I went to Hebrew school. They passed out a piece of paper and they were like, bring this home to your family. And then I brought it home to my family and the piece of paper was like, okay, write down your favorite family recipe. And then bring it back in, and we're going to put it in this book and then send it home to everybody. So everyone has like a book of family recipes. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to write down my recipe for eggs. And my mom stops me and she goes, honey, Corbett, darling, love of my life, you cannot put eggs with cut up ham and cheese in a Jewish cookbook. And I'm like, I don't know, 8. I'm a similar age. I'm like, but it's so delicious. Like, why? But it's so, and she's like, well, and then she like explains the pork thing and the meat and cheese thing, and I'm like, oh, we're breaking like 2 huge rules. And I think we just put like vegetarian lasagna in there or something like that. I can't even remember, but that's like one of my big moments of like, but why? That's dumb. Ham is delicious. Like, wait, you never had a cheeseburger? Like, without the cheese? Why would you do that? Like, now I'm 32 and dairy just murders my stomach. So it's like, I get it now. Now, maybe they just had weak stomachs. Like, that was, the rule came from like, this is just causing too much farting in our group. So we're just cutting out the cheese, 7,000 years ago or whatever the hell they did it. I don't know. But it's just like completely like, there was no fear that you got of like, you got to do this out of fear. This was totally the opposite of like, you should do this out of love. Mm-hmm. But if you don't want to do it, okay.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Nobody
No.
really cared. I get like some disappointment sighs from people who believe in God when I tell them I don't believe in God. But I definitely don't get responses of like, well, you should because you should be afraid of blah, blah, and blah. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe, then this will happen. And it's like, you've just been brainwashed.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So how long do you think, granted, you're not there from birth, like you mentioned, where it's like from birth, songs, church, blah, blah, blah. You're at 8. So you have, even though it's only a short 7 or 8 years, you have hardwiring they have to delete, which a baby does not have. So how long do you think it takes for them to stamp out your old hardwiring and make you a Mormon? Like by 9, are you a Mormon, or is it 11, 17? Like what?
Like officially a Mormon?
Like in your brain, where you're thinking
brain.
like a Mormon, enjoying this. You haven't escaped yet. Obviously, we'll get to that moment in history.
I would say, yeah, I would say very quickly for me.
Okay.
Because I was on this survival mode where I learned at the orphanage, if you don't please, you get the beatings. And so if I didn't please this family, I had this fear. And there was a little bit of physical abuse there as well. In the Mormon family.
And the orphanage.
Oh, totally. There's a lot of other stuff. But yeah. And there was a lot of emotional abuse.
Russians don't play around with their orphan beatings.
No. But
I see how they train their ballerinas, so I would only imagine the orphanage would be way worse.
I mean, I was talking about my adoptive family, but yeah, in the orphanage, there was a lot of sexual abuse, physical abuse, and negligence and all that stuff. But in the Mormon family, yeah, there was a little bit of physical abuse, but mostly emotional abuse. And they really just wired, you either do it our way or you'll go to hell, or you'll get in trouble, or you'll get shunned from
so
society.
Much the opposite of the actual values of the Christianity, of Christian religion. And again, I'm raised a Jew. I'm not like super versed on the Christian religion, but pretty sure at its base values, it's about like love and understanding and everybody working together towards like a great common goal of a better community. Yes. Not just like this instilled fear of our way or the highway.
Yes. And they talk about loving unconditionally, but it's just completely conditional.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. Man. So at what point, fast forwarding, do you, rather walk me through the leaving of this.
Yeah.
Like, at what moment do you wake up and you're like, these beliefs are not in line with my beliefs? And, is the escape like a literal, I'm running away, or do you just get old enough and save some money and buy a bus ticket? Like, walk us through that a little bit.
So for me, I was as in it as a Mormon could be. I really, truly did believe it because that's just all the option I felt I had.
Yeah. So it went from I just have to please so I don't get Larod to I've been following these paths long enough in the pleasing mindset that the belief is taking over. Yeah. You're like, actually just believe this world.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I did go on, I had different callings, what we call it, different church positions that help guide other members of the church and those who were non-members. And then I served a Mormon mission as well in California. I did get the swine flu at the time, so I never actually finished my mission, thank God.
So when you say, quote, I served a mission, what does that mean?
So for females, you give your time for a year and a half to just serving the Mormons. They say serving God, but it's serving the Mormon church. So you're just going out there and preaching about the Book of Mormon.
Oh, so you're like knocking on doors and like, have you found Jesus yet? And here's our pamphlet. And so it's like that that's the serving the mission.
Exactly.
Okay. So the mission, I'm using air quotes, we don't have a video. The mission is kind of like that specific church.
Yeah.
Just to relate with terms I can understand. Okay. Yeah. So basically you got like under the umbrella of Mormons, you got assigned to a specific Mormon church. And then for a year and a half, you're, the nun of that church for basically where you're working in that church, you're recruiting for that church.
The area.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're all about teaching about the Mormon ways, the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith, the history, baptism, temples, all that, and what you can do to get to the highest kingdom of God after you die.
Okay. All about, I guess, preserving the soul, getting through whatever you want to call it, heaven.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
So I served that. And then during nursing school, So I'm a nurse. So during nursing school, we were doing nursing psych. And I had a classmate who was a dear friend, and she was like, you should do some therapy, because she knew a little bit about my history. And I thought, therapy, that's for those who have real issues. I'm fine. And then the more I thought about, okay, long story short, I started therapy in nursing school, and it turned out to be the best thing in the world.
How old are you?
I was 27-ish.
Okay.
25, 6.
Okay.
That.
So
in
you
my
spent
mid-20s.
8 to 25 in the Mormons.
Uh-huh.
That's a long chunk of time.
It's a real long time.
Yeah.
And during that time, I finally was able to feel like I had a safe space to express my truth and what had happened to me in the past, how I really felt about my Mormon family, the situation I got put in, being adopted, the things that happened to me in the orphanage. And so the more I spoke about, the more I let out my voice, the more I thought, what, whatever truth is out there, I want it, because I'm tired of trying to please others and being quiet and having to be, have a muzzle on my mouth and just being a pleaser and do whatever someone else wanted me to do. And so,
I mean, your friend could not have been more right. I mean, I go to therapy and I have no trauma by comparison. But to me, I've got trauma, but it's not trauma. Like, you've got actual trauma. And that's not an insult. That's just like therapy is that was probably a huge life-changing moment.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
And so that is when I started to slowly question even my existence. And that's what Mormons are taught, is to not question anything that you're being taught, because then your brain starts to actually work. But they just teach you to go by faith, go by blind faith. Whichever the prophet, which is a man of God, the only man that, and it has to be a man, no females, whatever this prophet says goes. And you can't question it, and if you do, you are possessed by the devil, you are a sinner, there's something wrong with you, and you need to repent. So for me, I started questioning. I was allowing myself to question. And then as soon as I did that, that was the point where little teachings started to become not feeling so right with me. And so, such as, the word of wisdom. Like, why is it okay that Mormons can drink soda, monster drinks, all of that are really harmful, and yet we were not allowed to drink tea or coffee or even wine, which is actually healthy for you if you use it the right way. So things like that, or...
That makes no sense.
It does not.
Monster energy drinks are poisoned.
Right, I know. But again, it was all about whatever Joseph Smith created in the past goes. And so, or like paying your tithing. Why do we have to pay 10% to a corporation, which is what Mormon is? It's a big corporation, this church. They own billions in stocks. They have malls. So why are members who are poor having to give 10% when you already have so much more money? You're building all these big-ass expensive temples and church houses, and yet you are making your members suffer. That also did not make sense to me. Like, why do we have to pay to get saved? So, anywho, so little things like that were just starting to come into play. Or like, families can be together forever. That is a thing where in these temples, have you heard of the Mormon temples? Have you seen them?
I've never seen one. Or if I drove by it on the side of a highway, I didn't know it was like specifically a Mormon temple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're really fancy, big ass. Like Mormons want you to know that that's their temple. That's who they are. They're made to stand out, and they're very expensive. So in these temples, they have rituals, and you're not allowed to talk about what happens in these temples. So again, another thing that's part of a cult. And
Oh, it's a cult.
It's right. Totally. And you have certain clothes that you have to wear. You have to do different signs, different words, phrases, all this weird ass shit. So you get sealed. So when I say sealed, you get connected to each other through God, which makes you bound together forever. And so when people are about to die, or when they die, they take comfort in saying, oh, well, even though they're not here now, I'll be with them after I die. I'll see them again. We'll be together forever. I never liked that. That never sat well with me, because I thought, I don't really like these people. And I do not want to be stuck with them forever.
Right.
Like that, and that wasn't even my choice. I got sealed to them when I was 8. But I got baptized when I was 8. I had no choice to either of these. So why? Yeah, it was kind of like a punishment for me. Like I did not want to. So
maybe you don't know, but I'm very curious. Like, how much of the Mormon people are recruited from like adult age, like you were trying to do when you were, working at the missionary, versus how many are just like born into it and that's all they know? Because just hearing this little bit from you, if I was really open to religion, which I am not, but if I was open to religion and I had like a let's go shopping for religions day, and somebody tried to explain everything you just explained to me about the Mormons, I'd be like, are you guys insane? Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no way. So I'm just curious, like, how many adults who are not in a church get approached by a Mormon, get told all this stuff, and are like, yep, that's the one for me. Sign me right up. I want to pay more and be poor and be bound to you guys for eternity and go to the highest kingdom circle of heaven and wear these ridiculous clothes and listen to this one dude because he knows all, because he's John Smith's like descendant or whatever. Like, it's bonkers.
Well, what they use tactics. They use fear tactics. They use tactics to where they pry on people who have low self-esteem, let's say, who have no sense of purpose, who are lost in this world. And so this religion has been created to sound so glorious. Oh yeah, I'll be with my spouse forever. I love them, so I'm going to be with them forever when I die. Or when my family dies, I'll be able to see them in the afterlife. Okay, so that's worth paying 10% of what I have.
Yeah, all 4 of those things that you mentioned, though, like that's the characteristics that every cult is looking for in a follower.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why they're so large and attractive to the ones who end up following, is because they are, depressed or going through a life lull. They're very vulnerable, whatever the reason may be. It would almost be like if they just changed it to the Mormon cult instead of the Mormon church. It'd be like, cool, you guys are what you say you are. Enjoy your life. And if people want to join the Mormon cult, join the Mormon cult. But just know it's the Mormon cult.
Yeah.
Like, stop calling it the Mormon church. Yeah. To me, that would solve all the problems. I'd be like, cool, just change the name. Don't change anything else. And then if people are still like, I'm joining the Mormon cult, you just know that person's an idiot and don't be friends with them. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
I mean, there are some really good people, and but it's a really fucked up religion. So going back to, because I say that because I still have friends who are Mormon, so I don't want to bash on them because they're my friends. And they have their reasons for staying. In my mind, I do think they're silly and they know my beliefs.
Are you allowed to stay in touch? Are they allowed to have a phone?
Oh, yeah.
You laugh. I don't know.
No, yeah.
Do they have internet?
They're not Amish. So you're
okay, fair enough.
Amish.
Maybe I'm thinking of Amish.
Yes.
Yeah, or Mennonites. I might be thinking of Mennonites. Okay,
yes.
touche. Yeah.
They have regular jobs. They're in the military. They can play college football. They can. They have cell phones. You will not know. Like, let's say you have a coworker you would not know they're Mormon unless, like just by looking at them, you wouldn't really necessarily know.
Okay, I'm definitely thinking of Amish and Mennonites
Yes.
then, because you could spot them from a mile away. You're like, oh, okay, that like is a very specific type of skirt that lady is wearing. Like that's a Mennonite, and like that's fine.
Right.
But, you could tell, and they don't have phones or drive cars or use the internet.
And that's probably another reason why it is appealing, because you can still live regularly without having to, really cut yourself off from the world.
So it's not like you have to go and live like in a compound,
right?
Kind of like the Amish and the Mennonite or other cults that I don't know the names of. Okay, right. I definitely was a little misinterpreting, because it kind of sounded like you all lived in a compound in the desert in Utah or whatever, just like with fences and like guards and stuff, and like you can't.
And those
leave.
are polygamous.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, right. Okay, so you're just like.
So
okay.
As I'm questioning things are trying to really find my voice and stand up more for myself against even my family. That's when I started to stand up against these beliefs. And slowly at the time, it was one thing after another. So instead of going to 3 meetings of church, which now is 2, but 3, I would just go to 1, sacrament. And I would just have like Sunday school in private by myself in my own home. And then eventually I stopped even going to sacrament. And then I stopped later on. I had a really big faith crisis to where I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? Why is it that this next person, that this other person, or this guy, or this woman can speak to God, they've seen God, they can touch God, blah, 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 and yet I am working my ass off to be as faithful as I can, and yet I've never seen, heard, touched, nothing. I've had no confirmation that there is a God. And why am I giving all this praise? Why is it that my purpose is to worship a human, like worship something I've never seen? That just sounds so bizarre. And why is it that I'm giving credit to this God, to this figure, again, who I've never seen, for me getting through my troubles and my adversities on my own? I'm the one that got through them, not God. And
no, I hear that for sure. I feel that for sure, because I'll see that, like, friends I respect on Facebook or whatever, they'll do something that was good for them, benefited their home, their life, their job or whatever, and immediately they'll like throw it up on Facebook and be like, through the grace of God, I was able to, and I don't write it because I don't want to be a jerk. But the first and only thing that goes through my head is, God didn't do shit. He's not real. You did that. You did that. Now, granted, I don't know if God's real or not. I don't believe in God. That's me. That's not, I'm not trying to push that on people. One of my best friends, Marcus, he very much believes in God. He is a Christian and he's a good human. And I would never be like, dude, you're dumb. Stop believing in God. But I'll tell you right now, we don't have religion conversations because I know that like, A, it's not going to go anywhere. And B, I worry that like that's the conversation where then we're not going to hang out anymore.
Right.
So we just don't do it. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about baseball. You want to talk about hockey? How's the haircutting career? Like whatever. Pick anything else, but we're just not going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'll come at it with like facts. And not even Marcus, but a religious person will just combat facts with belief. And it's like, okay, well, if you're just going to argue facts with belief, there's no conversation to have. Like, I present a fact, you believe the fact is fake. Well, okay, well, it's like, well, gravity's real. So, like, we can't, it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So, but that's very much, like, I'm not like, arrogant enough to believe that like my view is better. I'm just, humble enough to believe that my view is my view. And like, there's nothing wrong with my view and there's nothing wrong with everyone else's view. The Mormons might, I think we both agree that part's wrong just because it's a fear-based recruitment strategy.
Yeah.
I think there are probably amazing positives
Yes.
that could be pulled out of any religion, Mormon included.
Definitely.
But, their strategy is, like you said, and like we've said a few times, like it's 100% fear-based.
Yes.
And I really, really don't like and you're just not allowed to question. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Right.
wait a minute. You should be questioning everything.
Yeah.
And then having a conversation about how your questions get answered. And if somebody was smart, turning that back to faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how you reaffirm that if you really wanted to reaffirm all of your followers, believers, cult members, whatever you want to call it. Fill in the blank. Yeah.
If something is truth, you will not be afraid to be challenged by it.
Yeah.
And the church does. And that's why they teach you, again, from the moment you're born, they teach you to listen to only Mormon music or Christian music, books. Do not read any anti-Mormon books whatsoever because they're of the devil. They're possessed by the devil, all this negative stuff. So
interesting.
And these anti-Mormon books or these stories by people are the truth that the Mormons have hidden from its members. I mean, if you dig deep into Mormon history and Joseph Smith, and I mean, it is disgusting and very disturbing. And Mormons don't know about this. They do not know how deceiving this Joseph Smith was, what a pedophile he was, what a manipulator he was. And yeah,
if
I
they
could go
did,
on.
their entire faith would be rocked and questioned.
Completely.
So is that any different than, the Roman Catholic Church, who has like everything hidden in that in the Vatican? They have everything is hidden there for a reason. You can't even go in. The walls are 60 feet tall. Like, I don't know if you've ever been, but like you're just walking around Italy and it's just there. It's like, why is this massive vaulted fortress in the middle, and it's its own country? You need a passport to walk in. And it's just like hiding the pedophiles and holding the wealth and keeping all the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I heard a comedian, I don't know if it's true at all, so don't even think about coming at me for this, but I heard a comedian say that the Roman Empire didn't really ever stop. It just became the Catholic Church. Like, all the art, all the money became the Catholic Church. And I thought about it for half a second, and I was like, whoa, that's not the most insane thing I've ever heard. Because, like, the Roman Empire, the wealth that it had, and it's very much, Catholic beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And as their empire started to fall, we don't have really like a track of where all that wealth went. I think it became the Catholic Church. They were like, how do we keep this? We build a giant wall. We call it a religion. We store all the paintings in the basement.
Oh.
We have a couple of rooms with statues no one can talk about.
Yeah.
And, when you touch a little kid, you get to come here for sanctuary. And it's like, what the hell is going on?
So with that, a couple of things. So bring me back to, bring me back to pedophiles.
Okay.
And bishops.
Great topic. Yes.
And then...
hold on. Let me write that down. Bring back pedophiles.
And bishops.
And bishops.
So in these...
We're going everywhere today, folks.
Everywhere.
Join us. Yeah.
So in these temples, not everyone in these Mormon temples, you have to have a special card and special permission to enter these temples. So let's say if you had a daughter who was getting married and she became Mormon, and she was going to marry a Mormon person, and they would a man, because they don't do.
Oh, it's got to be a man.
It has to be a man, and they are going to get married in the temple. You cannot watch the ceremony. You are not allowed to go in.
You can't watch your daughter get married.
Exactly. So, which is really heartbreaking. But yeah, because you have to live up to these certain rules in order to go in. And that's part of it, being baptized. Part of it, you have to wear these ugly, fugly clothing.
So they wouldn't let me in any temple.
Oh, hell
ever.
no.
Yeah.
No. You got tattoos. You got, even though now they're saying, oh, tattoos are fine. So
it's funny how they died on that tattoo sword, and now they need members. So it's like, tattoos are cool, everybody. We just need people. It's
exactly.
like, okay, gotcha. So we live and die by these rules unless we need members, then we can change them.
Yeah, gotcha. And that's how I think that's where it's going to because of how the world is changing. But so you're not only certain people can go in to the temple, and in the temple you do these ceremonies, and you're not allowed to talk about them. You're not allowed to speak. I mean, if you're curious, I could tell you.
Did you witness any of these ceremonies?
Oh yeah, because in order to go on a mission, a Mormon mission, you have to go through. They call it through the temple. You have to make higher covenants, these higher promises to God. Meaning, I'm
imagining like the worst possible things I can in my brain right now. Well, is there anything we can talk about on the air in these ceremonies?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not real. So it's all made up shit. So, but it's nothing abnormal. Like you have to be just chaste. You like these clothes, these garments. That is what they are called. They are ugly on purpose. They're long on purpose, so that way it's a reminder for you to be chaste and to not fall into the temptation of breaking your sexual, to be clean, to save yourself for the right person for when you are married, and to only stick with that one person. And that's a whole nother ballgame too, what sexual abuse. There's so much sexual abuse in.
So they want you to not have sex unless they're going to abuse you.
No. So they do not want you to have sex unless you are married to a Mormon. And if you do have sex, they expect you to marry that person.
Wow.
Even if you don't like them very much, and then later on that they also get you to get sealed eventually in the temple, so you can be with that person together forever with your kids.
Is marriage like prearranged, like a lot of like Indian culture?
No, okay. But it's just having babies and being married is a thing that they brainwash women so strongly into. That's like our whole purpose, is to be breeders and for the men to do whatever the fuck they want with our bodies. And a lot of that happened in my marriage. There was a lot of sexual abuse because I had grown up with this mindset of my body is not my own. And because I'm married, he is the patriarch, meaning like the head of the household. He's the boss. And he gets the say. And so even if I say no, it doesn't matter because I'm married.
Were you married while you were a Mormon?
No, I broke out. But that mindset
was still ingrained.
My God. It truly, and he was also not a Mormon, but he was, at the time, we both were not Mormon anymore, but he still had that same mindset. We both did. I had the mindset of self-sacrifice, of even if I tried to stand up for myself, he would not really give a fuck.
And so he was a Mormon too?
He used to be.
So did you both break away together?
Separately, but in our marriage, I left Christianity altogether, but he stayed a Christian.
Okay, so he changed from being a Mormon to a different version of Christianity.
Right.
And you were like, I'm out of Mormonism and I'm just abandoning the Christian faith as a whole.
Right, because of the whole thing with the God, that I'm never seeing. And you have these people who are assholes and yet they're seeing God. And I'm trying to be a really good person and yet I don't get to see God. So I told myself, well, if you are real, then fuck you, because you've never been here for me, and here I am sacrificing my whole life for you, and you're promising me that I'll get to see you, but I don't, so fuck you, God, right, from that Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Hasa diga ibawai, I love that phrase. And
you should get it as a tattoo.
Right?
Don't do that.
I'll just say it. And then I told myself, okay, well, if you're real, then manifest yourself to me because I have damn well deserved it and I've earned it. And that's not being prideful. It's saying, where's my reward for being a good servant of God? But until then, fuck you and bye. you're not real. And I give myself credit for all the shit I've gone through.
I mean, I think even if you believed in God, so this is more towards listeners, you still need to give yourself credit for doing stuff. Like, it's not like we are just puppets. You know, if you truly believe we are puppets, why would you do anything ever? Why would you abide by any rules ever? Because you would just be like, I have no control over inhaling oxygen, and just let God take over. So, like, even if you believe in whatever you believe in, you still should be patting yourself on the back for positive things you do, strides you take in a good direction in your life, and and fill in the blank. It's irrelevant. Doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter how you tried to better yourself. If you're trying to do something, if you're actively trying to better yourself in any regard, you can't just be like, that's because God did it. No, you put in the work. Like, maybe your faith in God put you in the right path, and that's how you got to where you wanted to be. But it was still you. Like, you got to take some credit. And I think that this is moving away from a religion conversation. I think there's just a lack of that in general. I think there's a huge problem with okay, the pandemic put everybody's mental health down 60%. Like, everybody's depressed. Everyone's upset. Everybody. It's across the board. And the self-loathing thing is huge. And nobody's giving them enough credit for anything. Guess what, everybody? Life is really hard, even if you've got a great one. Like, you either worked really hard to get a great one, or you're still in the middle of working to keep that great one, or it's not great and you're trying to make it great, or somebody's life looks really good through a lens of a fake social media. That person's life is also hard. Like, life is just difficult. Like, it's not easy, and, to just blindly be like, everything bad is God, everything good is God, everything is God. Like, okay, then what are you?
Exactly.
What are you doing? How are you involved? If God controls everything you do, why would I interact with you?
Yep.
Like, you're not a thing then. You're literally like, this mouse that controls the keyboard.
Yeah.
So it's like, or the mouse that controls the computer. It's like, is that really what's going on, or are you the one moving the mouse and clicking it?
Exactly. And that's what they teach you, is that humility is a big thing. And if you give credit to God for everything, for fucking everything. Nothing is of your doing. And if it is, then you're looked down as being prideful.
So at what year, just so I have the timeline. So how old are you when you started therapy in nursing school, where you start to question things? What age are we there?
So we are about 28, 29.
Okay, so 29, and then how long, from 29 to when are you like, I'm done with this. This is dumb. How long does it take?
It was I was 31 or 32.
So it took about 4 years?
Yeah, so in my marriage, right when I got married, I was married for 4.5 years. So right when I first got married, we had both left Mormonism. We were very devout Christians, though. It was halfway into my marriage when I started questioning even the existence of God.
So how old are you when you get married?
I was 29.
Okay, so
I was older too. Oh no!
So at 29, you're all three: nursing school, getting married, and starting to question the Mormon situation.
So more like 26, 27 with nursing school. I started questioning Mormonism around that time. And then God was questioning God was around like 31.
Okay, so you're still married when you're questioning God. So you've moved from Mormon, but you're still, as you said, you and your husband, very much still Christians.
Uh-huh.
And then you start to question Christian faith as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm assuming / asking that led to your marriage ending, because he very much still is a Christian.
So that's not what led into our divorce, but that was one of the hindrances. We had an interfaith marriage. That
Mm-hmm.
was because how could I truly express my feelings in a safe environment when he felt attacked, and vice versa? Because here I am saying, you're kind of an idiot for believing all this shit.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's saying to me, well, I feel hurt because you think I'm stupid.
I mean, unfortunately, I see his side.
Totally,
like,
totally.
even if you're like, well, God's not real, and he's
Yeah.
like, well, my heart tells me God's real.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that's hard.
Right.
That goes back to my point of why I don't have religious conversations with Marcus. Like, he is one of my best friends, and I would be hurt beyond measurement if I lost him as a friend. And if all it's going to take to lose him as a friend is to like accidentally get upset and call him an idiot for believing in what he believes in, that's not what friends do.
Right. No.
So I get it. I couldn't be married to Marcus,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would call him dumb.
Right.
And I wouldn't actually mean that I think he's dumb.
Right.
Like, he's a smart dude. I just
Right.
am so in the belief that he shares.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I get it. But of course I see your side too. Like, that would be really difficult. You're like, well, I'm not going to devote myself to you just because you think you read a book that says I have to devote myself to you. Like, what? No, I'm going to go be a nurse.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
you could make dinner tonight.
Right.
It's not that hard.
It's not.
The oven has an on button. It's in English. Like, it's.
And he did cook a little.
Yeah. I don't mean him specifically.
Yeah,
I just mean, like, you talked about, you
like
mentioned
Mormons,
the patriarchy. Yeah, you meant you mentioned the patriarchy.
Clean, cook, take care of the kids, and that's all they're
very
for.
like 50s household.
Very. It's
and
still like that.
That we have evolved from that
Very
aggressively as a society for the better, I would say.
Oh, totally.
I love to cook. Don't tell me I can't cook. What are you talking about? No way.
Right. I would love for you to cook.
I am a great cook. Yeah. We'll get Jen on the phone right now, and she'll be like, have Corbett cook some pan-seared tuna. Everything will be okay.
Done.
Yeah. So is this the same husband that we bought a house with, that we can now talk about buying a house with somebody and getting divorced and that situation?
Yes.
Okay. So shifting gears a tiny little bit, but still your amazing life story. When I told you about my podcast, you almost immediately were like, oh my God, the struggles I had with my house and the divorce. And like, I think you like took a huge gulp of coffee and were like, prenup. And I was like, so could we talk about this? So, yeah. So, when do you, I'm assuming after the marriage is official, you then buy a house together?
So we bought a house. We first rented for a year after we got married. And then we decided during that time it was actually cheaper to have a mortgage than to rent. And this was in downtown Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And so we looked into housing. And then after about 4 months of searching, we found a home that we were going to invest in. It was a 2-level. So the main level we were going to live in, and then the basement, which in Utah they have basements.
Yeah, not so much here.
Yeah. And we were going to turn it into a rental. So we bought the house for that. And because when you get married, that mindset of, you don't do prenups. Mormons don't do prenups because you think you're together forever. You get married with the intention, like any married couple, you don't plan on breaking up or getting divorced or anything. So why have a prenup? And so there was no talk about who will get what or whatever. So he was also on the title with me. I was on the mortgage because I'm the one that had the higher income, and I was working 2 jobs. I had a better credit score and all that stuff. And so the mortgage was under my name, but the title was under both of ours. In case something happened to me, then he would get the house.
Okay. And that's all well and good if the marriage stays together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have to, not that you're having any trouble sharing your personal life, but we don't have to dive back into why the marriage didn't work out. We'll just leave it at the religious squabble and whatever else happened. It sounds like he was too into the 1950s patriarchy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically to the house, trying to educate listeners, what happens, what's the situation like? Like, walk us through that. So, okay, marriage is broken. Like, that sucks, obviously. You know, I don't know the state laws versus North Carolina. I know in North Carolina, you actually have to be separated for a whole year before you can get divorced, which I don't know who came up with that law, but that's bonkers if you're like, this isn't working out. Is there anything like that in Utah?
In Utah, I think it is, 60 or 90 days.
Okay, so much shorter and more realistic, and then you could just file for divorce.
Yes,
okay.
After that.
So I'm assuming the divorce part is easy until we get to the house.
Right. So, so he left.
Because there's no kids involved.
Thank God, no.
Okay, so there's no kids involved,
no kids.
That's relatively easy.
Very.
But you do have to figure out what to do with the house, and unfortunately, as mentioned, both names are on the house, so regardless of the fact that you had better credit and did the mortgage and all that jazz, that is now irrelevant information to a divorce lawyer who sees his name on the thing and goes, we want that.
Yeah. And he, so even though he at this time was not even working, and he moved back with his parents, leaving me with the house and the mortgage. He wasn't even paying his half anymore.
Oh, so he just abandoned you in the house altogether?
Yes.
During that 90-day separation time frame. Okay.
And so here I am keeping up, because I could have made the house foreclose, but I did not. I still kept going. I still paid my payments. I still took good care of the house. And then when I was...
Because your income was enough, obviously.
Exactly.
So you could have handled the house solo.
Right.
And in fact.
I was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kicking ass and taking names.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he did do a good amount of work on the basement. And so to his credit, the value of the house did increase. And so there's an extra 2 bathrooms that he was able to put on in the basement. And there's other things that we actually, because I also did it, that we were able to do. So to him...
And y'all did all that work by yourselves?
By ourselves,
nice.
Yeah. We did have people help us with the sheetrock, because that was a pain in the ass. But everything else, he was very handy with that kind of, and very knowledgeable with that kind of stuff. So in his mindset, he thought he deserved half of the interest from the house. And so when he left, I decided to sell the house, and he had to buy me out or sell with me. And so he chose to sell with me. And I had to do everything to get it ready. So during that time, we were raising goats and chickens in our backyard, so we kind of had a mess. So in order to clean up the house, to make it look presentable and to have higher value and stuff, I had to clean out everything and sell everything and get rid of everything to make it more appealing. And then, so yeah, we got our realtor involved, and then that's what made it iffy was, he wanted half. And the Utah law is 50-50, even though we didn't have kids. And that's why they actually created the law, the 50-50 law, was because the women were with the children, and they felt it was very unfair because they were also doing work in the house. And so that's how actually that law came about, the 50-50. But we did not have kids. Like, I was the one working 2 jobs. I was the one taking care of the house, paying the mortgage, and cleaning the house to get it ready to sell. And yet he wanted 50%, and he pretty much did get 50% because We did not have a prenup.
So even like not implying you didn't have a good lawyer, but there was just nothing that could be done without a prenup.
Right. There was nothing. So I highly, even if you love the person, it does not mean you do not love your partner, but please get a prenup. Just both of you get the prenup. Just save your asses, because you never know. You just don't know. You really don't.
And so, did you guys end up selling the house? Was any money made?
Yeah. So in that 2 years, so we had our home for 2.5 years. And in Utah, in Salt Lake, this was in 2019 when we bought the house. So right before the pandemic. And we sold it it was April 2021. 2021. We actually, do you want me to talk about numbers?
I mean, sure. Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah, it was about 200,000 interest just from the 2.5 years from that home.
In interest? Or in how much the value
equity,
went up?
Sorry, equity.
Oh, okay.
My bad. In
I was like, that's a lot of interest.
Sorry. Oh my. No. Sorry.
I was like, so it was a $7 million house? Like, what?
My God.
Yeah, you're just a nurse? Yeah. That other job is selling narcotics from the nurse's closet. Yeah.
Right.
Whoa. Okay.
I meant equity.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I meant equity with the previous comment. Yes.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So it did go up in value.
It did.
He got half that.
And he got half of that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So the moral of the story is 54% of marriages end up in divorce. Get a prenup. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Or just don't get married. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, we're two cynics right here today, aren't we? Okay. Let's change it to something more positive. Congratulations on the new townhome. Is it official?
No. So
Okay.
I'm actually.
I retract my congratulations. I'm not happy for you at all. Yeah. In fact, if you could leave. Bye, everybody. No.
Bye.
So where are you looking?
So so I already have the house, the townhome I'm interested in. In fact.
Oh, okay.
So me by myself.
Yeah, there's no we now.
There's no we.
You, the royal we.
The royal, right. So I put in an offer last week, and they accepted.
Oh,
the
nice.
The sellers accepted. And today, actually, we are the appraisal is going to happen, and also the inspection.
There you go.
And then we're supposed to close. I am supposed to close in 2 weeks.
You could say we. It's the royal we. It's okay. We understand. We understand what's going on. Yeah, we got it. You said, 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's very, very exciting. Townhome, you said?
A townhome.
So connected to the ones left and right?
Thankfully,
story?
just the corner, like the edge.
Oh, okay. So just one shared wall.
Right.
Nice.
I was very picky about that. Yeah.
3-story or 2?
2-story, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath.
Nice.
And I'm wanting it to be an investment. So it's not going to be my permanent home, but what I'm wanting out of it is, I'm being smart about this, is buying a place where I can do Airbnb.
Yeah.
So the other 2 bedrooms I want to turn into either renters or, Airbnbs. And hopefully that can kind of help build a little bit of income where I can get a second home.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great move. I mean, especially if like the bedroom you prefer has its built-in suite bathroom, and then you can rent the other 2 with the other bathroom, then like that's a perfect move.
And all 3 bedrooms actually have their own bathrooms.
Oh, I thought you said 3 bath.
Oh, 2.5. So one's a shower.
Oh, okay.
So there are 2 baths, like bathtub, and then one just has a shower.
Oh, okay. So in the industry, when you say half a bath, that just means toilet, sink.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you have a full bath. It just doesn't have a tub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you say this is like 3 bed, 2.5 bath, that means 2 full baths and 1 just toilet, 1 sink.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Like what I'm designing in my new house. The new house I'm building will have master with a bath, guest bed with a real bath, and then a hall bathroom that's just a toilet and a sink, because no one needs to shower off of the living room.
Right.
But like it's close to the front door for someone who's been driving a long time. It's like, come in, it's right there. Like go, you've been driving 4 hours or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, that's just real estate lingo. What do you think, how much research have you done into like what the rooms will rent for, what you could get for Airbnb? Like, do you think you can offset the mortgage completely?
I might, because the area that I looked into, also I was really particular about, it is between Durham, Cary, and Chapel Hill. It's right in the middle, right by the triangle, TDR?
RTP.
RTP.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Yeah. And so I think because of that, I could do a little bit higher, and it's right by Southtown Mall and all those.
South Point.
Yeah. Excuse me.
You're
wow.
Good.
I'm new to there.
It's okay. It's okay.
I have, yeah. And
you should just lie and be like, I came from Russia 6 months ago, and then everyone would be like, oh my God, you got it down so quick. Right. Like, yeah, we could fib the story. We'll delete this whole episode. No one will have to know your now true story all over the internet for all 6 listeners I've got. No, RTP is a fantastic place. And, as well as renting the rooms individually or doing Airbnb, as mentioned, you should also look into posting your rooms for rent on the travel nursing websites, because the travel nurses, they get a housing stipend. So they're prepared to pay more rent. Most of the time, also, it's furnished. So if you have maybe some furnishings you don't really want to use yourself, but they're like too good to be thrown away, you could furnish a bedroom and you could get a travel nurse for like 3 to 6 months, because then they're going to a new city and they just show up with their stuff. They like I said, they get that stipend, so you don't have to worry about the rent. Like, they're getting paid by the hospital that's employing them. So that might be something you want to look into.
Thank you.
Because that's just a great way. And what's cool also is, like, hypothetically, you get somebody you don't like. 3 months, they're gone.
Right.
Get a new person.
Yeah. Yep.
Versus Airbnb, to me, and so much success. I'm not shitting on Airbnb. I'm just saying, me personally, I don't really want to be like washing sheets every 6 days for a new person and having to do like that kind of level of borderline hotel style situation in my house.
Yeah.
So that's just like my 2 cents of it. That's not like a rule. That's just, my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
So here's like, so you know how you were saying there's the traveling nurse website for that? Isn't there, because RTP. Dyslexia.
I actually am dyslexic, so let's go.
Bring it.
Yeah.
So that is a really happening place for like business and research and all that. And so is there a website, and this I'm sure is valuable for your listeners too, for those who are interested, but are there websites for that as well, like the traveling nurse, to like rent out your home?
Like specifically looking for something in the RTP area?
Like for let's say for like businessmen who come for like a longer duration of stay, is there a website to rent out on those websites to them?
Not that I'm aware of. From my knowledge, which I will admit is limited, when a business needs somebody to be somewhere for a longer period of time, there are more long-term hotels that have like a kitchen that they will put them up in, and or the business might simply own a house or two and be like, you take this house for the 3 months we need you here, as a type of situation. But I'm sure a little research on Google, if that exists, we could find it.
Yeah.
And that would definitely be something that you could think about. Really put the room everywhere and see who bites. You know, if you get an Airbnb, great. If you get somebody who needs a year lease and you fucking love them and the rent is awesome. If you get a travel nurse who needs it for 6 months, and you're talking about multiple rooms, so you could do them separately. One room could be a 6-month businessman. One room could be a 1-week Airbnb, and do it for a year and see which one made more money.
Yeah.
/ which one cost you more headache. Because like, what if the Airbnb made 10% more money, but gave you 15% more headache? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of cash to be more hands off and be able to get my social life back.
Yeah.
You know, you have to weigh that just as much. A lot of people, when they calculate stuff, and this has nothing to do with renting a room, but everything to do with every single type of work, whether it's construction or renting a room or whatever, a lot of people don't factor in their time and their headache because it's harder to put that on a spreadsheet. But it very much needs to be calculated. And like how much, I saved $200. Okay, but you added 8 hours of worrying about it. Like 8 hours divided by $200. Maybe you should have just not made the $200, made a little bit less and not worried about it as much. Like that stress factors into ways people don't comprehend when it messes up your sleep and it messes up your food, and then you're rude to your neighbor or whatever. You yell at your dog, or like, you know, it's just something that shouldn't have happened, you know, or you skip the gym or you overeat or fill in the blank. And it's like, you know, such a massive factor. It needs to be measured. You know, it's a little bit easier for me, because sometimes I can be like, okay, if I was doing hourly work, I'd want this much an hour. So this cost me 12 hours of bullshit. That shit, I wasted X amount of money. Like that, when you write it out, sometimes you're like, damn, I should have just not even done the job. Like that stress. Like, so, you know, run it for a little bit of an experiment.
Yeah.
And by then, maybe you've made some money, and then you're buying something new and you're renting out the entire unit, all 3 bedrooms as one house for $2,500 a month. I mean, I don't know. I don't know RTP rents, but I would imagine they're 12% higher than where my rental properties are in Durham. Because I've got 10 rentals, but we don't do by the room. We don't ever. It's like, you want the house, you need to sign a year lease, hopefully a 2-year lease. And, you know, we require auto payment. We require a deposit. We require a pet fee. When your year is up, you get first chance to renew after we tell you what the higher rent will be. And then if you don't want it, give us your moving out in 30-day piece of paper in an email, and we'll relist it. And we have 10 houses that are rented, and everyone's happy. And, you know, we actually had to drop a couple of rents last year because, unlike the situation you were talking about where the mortgage was cheaper than the rent when you were buying your house, it's not exactly the same now. Like rents had to go down a tiny little bit. We actually had a house sit done, ready to be moved in for like 2 months because we couldn't get it rented, and we had to drop the price. We had to just keep dropping the price. We had it listed at like $2,100, and our rental agent, what we were seeing, everyone was like, yeah, this is going to fly. And $2,000 didn't fly, $19,000 didn't fly, or $1,900, $1,800, just no movement. Yeah, everybody who would look at it would be like, these rooms are too small, this neighborhood's not good. And I'm like, you're in Durham. If you think this neighborhood's not good, you need to move to Beverly Hills, because this is gonna make, this particular house was actually in a really nice part of Durham on like a corner lot with good clean houses on both sides. I was like, you don't know where you are. Go back to Chapel Hill. Like, like if you want no culture and clean everything everywhere all the time, like this is not like, there's actually people who live in Durham, and we're not all robots with HOAs. Like, I hate HOAs.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of factors, but I think your plan in general is a 10 out of 10. It's a great move. You know, first of all, stop paying rent, get into your own spot. Don't feel bad about putting a hole in the wall, hang up some pictures, mount some TVs, you know? So that's number one. Get your space mentally calming and for you. And then a month later, start advertising these rooms for rent, offset the mortgage, always a great move. Hell, I don't know what your numbers are going to be. Maybe you pay off, maybe you're offsetting the whole mortgage and making some money. I mean, who knows? You know, but you have income and a good career, so it's not like you need this to live off of. And then, like you said, you're planning to build that equity, stack that cash, and get another property. And, you know, we have this podcast again in 9 years, and you have 18, you did 2 a year, you got 18 properties. You know, all of a sudden, it works. It works really well. Yeah. There are people who do entire careers doing that. Right. And then there are people who don't get a second one. They live in a house and they fix it up and then they sell it and they move. You know, my mother had a best friend who was like the mother of this kid that I was in school with, and that's what she did. She would move into these insane houses in upstate New York, where I'm from, and we'd go and see them like the first day, and they'd be like pretty run down. I didn't understand anything. I was a young kid. And then it seemed like clockwork. Like 16 months later, Marianne was her name, would throw these huge parties at the house, and it would be like an unrecognizable house. And then a month later, she would have sold it, made a huge check, and buy another house. And she was, you know, not a contractor, not a designer, but this is just what she did. And somehow she was good at it and did it a lot. And I look back at it and I'm like, oh, it does make sense. She bought a house. She did it all herself. That's why it took way too long. And then she threw this huge rager to kind of celebrate the house is done. And then next thing you know, she's selling and moving on. I was like, oh, that's why we never went to the same house more than like 3 times. And then she'd move. So at 15, I had no idea what was going on. Now at 32, I'm like, got it.
Yeah.
You know, and she just couldn't afford to keep all of them. You know, she had to fix one up, sell it, make the profit, and then buy the next one and keep doing that. You know, basically flipping a house while living in it.
Right.
Which is kind of difficult.
Right.
But it can be done. It can be done. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully the next podcast recording we do, you're walking me through house 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and all this money you're stacking, and we could talk about all the work you hired me to do on all these properties. Yeah, that's awesome. I do want to ask, so where or like how did you find your current North Carolina realtor?
I got her online. So, it was through, when I was looking for a place to rent in North Carolina, I Googled just a realtor, realtor in this area. And then I looked, and then one of her names popped up, of this one lady, not my current realtor. And then I gave her a call, and she seemed legit, and she seemed great. And then I met her in person when I flew out here. And she wasn't able to really help me because she had other clients. But she referred me to one of her gals. And this is how I got my current realtor.
Okay. And everything been good and positive, and we like her?
So good.
Cool.
Yes.
Who is she?
Jessica Hinkle.
Okay.
Hinkle.
Cool.
Jessica Hinkle. Yes.
Nice. I like to do positive shout outs. So, like, if Jessica Hinkle did a great job and is doing a great job, then thank you, Jessica, for being a good, honest realtor. We need more good, honest realtors.
Yes.
So there you go. And I guess we won't put all your info out because you're not really selling anything. I have, if I get a roofer, I'm like, give me your roofing number. But
Right.
hopefully you don't need a nurse. You're a nurse, right?
I'm
now?
a nurse.
Yeah. So hopefully you never run into her because that means you're like healthy and didn't get in a car accident. So we'll just end with, as usual, CRS Contracting and the Orange Hammer Podcast are on all those wonderful social media platforms. And you can call me 845-489-6057 or email me corb, at wsdg.com. If you need work, want to come on the show, or want me to talk about something specific, please reach out. And just thanks so much for coming. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Let's do it again. All right. Bye, everybody. Stay away from the Mormon Church.